Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar from Data to Dashboards, Power BI's Best Practices. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin the presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute you, or you can send them through the GoToWebinar question box. We will answer questions throughout the presentation, and we'll also follow up after the presentation to answer any additional questions. I'd like to introduce today's speakers. We have Neil Donahue and Mitch Dixon, who are two of our BI consultants here at Socius. So at this point, Neil, I believe we're ready to transition over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lindsay. So thanks again for joining us today. We're going to go through data to dashboards. So we're going to talk about visualizing all of your data in your different systems into a single Power BI dashboard. So we'd like to start with a little PowerPoint presentation, just to give you a little background about Power BI, where it started and where it's come to today. So today BI extends to everyone. In the past, maybe it might have taken 6 months and you needed quite a few technical analytic users just to set up a data model. It might have taken months just to get that data warehouse set up, and then you could build out some visuals based on there. It might have been quite labor intensive just to get a few visuals out, and it was not very end user friendly. Today, Power BI is what we call the third wave end user BI. So the difference is that we can take a much more iterative approach, and we can build out these data models much faster, and the end result is much more friendly to the end user, allowing them to change and manipulate dashboards to their will, and as they see fit to answer business problems. So turning data into business insights is challenging. So we have the end-to-end view. Data often resides in disparate locations, making it hard to see the complete picture. Whether that means different ERP systems, different data repositories, maybe an Excel spreadsheet, or maybe it's just that you have such a high volume of data that you can't quite get the full view of your company. With Power BI, we're able to very quickly summarize large volumes of data with automatic refreshing, as well as combine multiple data sources into a single dashboard. And I'll actually show you an example of this in a minute. And then we also have right data for the right users at the right time. And what good is data if it's not in the hands of the people who need it? So with Power BI, we can not only combine multiple data sources and a high volume of data, but we can also get that data to the right user based on different security restrictions like row-level security, making sure people only see the data that pertains to them, as well as getting the data in the form that they need it, whether that be through PowerBI.com, the web service, or whether that be a mobile app on your phone or tablet. So some key benefits and differentiators of Power BI. So Power BI comes with some pre-built dashboards and reports popular for software as a service solutions. So when you log into PowerBI.com, if you have a lot of services, some dynamic services, reporting services, Google Analytics, all of these come with pre-built dashboards that all it requires is your credentials to make a connection to that data source, and it will actually create a dashboard for you instantly, giving you a basic data model and even some pre-built visuals in just a matter of minutes. We also get real-time dashboard updates. So depending on how live is live for you, you can have that data up to the minute, or you can even schedule refreshes through the Power BI gateway, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more too. So secure live connections, everything is secure. It's held in Microsoft data centers, protecting your data, as well as natural language querying, and I'll let Mitch go into that a little bit more during his demo. But basically what that is you are able to ask questions of your data in plain English and have Power BI return a visual as a result. So you'd be able to say something like, show me dollars sold for the last 6 months, and you'd be able to get a bar chart rather than just a number. As well as integrated with Microsoft products, like I said, there's a lot of pre-built connections for the Microsoft tools, and that can create a dashboard in just minutes. So it's fast deployment, hybrid configuration. So like I said earlier, the third wave of BI is no longer a 6-month startup to just get your data warehouse, but rather get the data in there, start working with it, start manipulating it, and start seeing some visuals as soon as you can. So we get started quickly. So signing up for Power BI only takes seconds. There's a few different accounts, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you can get started with the pre-built content packs. I know I've mentioned this a few times. We also have pre-configured dashboards, reports, data models, and embedded queries. So you're able to do more with those dashboards. Not only can you view them in your web service or your phone and tablet, you can also embed those into websites for marketing purposes, or even in secure websites to share with your end users. Create interactive and real-time dashboards. We'll go into this a little bit in the demo, but when you work with Power BI, it's very flexible and it's very interactive to the end users. So everything you click on will kind of cross-filter and change the dashboard, as well as you can drill down into underlying reports to cover more insights. So when you look at a dashboard, you'll see some visuals, but there's underlying data to that you can access. So you might have a bar chart that says, dollars sold by salesperson, but within that visual, you're able to drill down and see, well, I don't just care about how much this one salesperson is selling. I need to know what they're selling, and I need to know who they're selling to. And with Power BI, that's all done in one visual, and it's really easy to set up, and we'll go into that too. So stay connected from any device. Now, I know I mentioned this, but you can access dashboards using native mobile apps like for Windows, iOS, Android. So you can see them on your phone. We actually have a screenshot of that to our right. So you'll see Power BI Mobile. You can actually customize the view, so you can have one view for when you view it on a desktop or a computer, but then you can actually customize that same dashboard for a view on your mobile. So maybe on your computer you have 15 visuals, but when you're looking at it on your phone, you really only care about 3 visuals. Well, you can tell Power BI that when you sign in through your phone, through your mobile app, well, just show me these 3. And what we can also do in the mobile is we can set alerts. So we'll see order TAT, that stands for turnaround time. How fast, when the order comes in, how fast are we getting that order out? Well, maybe, our goal is 10 hours. We want it in and we want it back out real fast. So in the mobile app, we can actually set alerts, and we can say, if that turnaround time ever goes above 13 hours, something's wrong, something's happening. So we can set it above 13, it'll send a notification to our phone saying the average turnaround time is now 13 hours, and then you can go in and see what the issue is. On the other hand, you can also set it below. Maybe you want to reward your employees if something's going really well. So you can say, well, show me when it goes below 9. And then you can give credit to where credit's due when their turnaround time is actually exceeding expectations. So consolidated data from a range of sources. I know I talked about this a little bit, but you can use a query to connect the data from a variety of sources. You'll see the full list at the bottom. I'm not going to go into every single data source possible, but I've now been working with Power BI since its general release 2.5 years ago, and I have yet to see a data source that I can't pull data from. You can navigate the data quickly, and you can really make this data model seamless so that an end user has no idea that they might be looking at 3 to 4 different data sources. To them, it's all one interactive piece of a data model that works, and they can build visuals with ease. So scheduling a refresh with Power BI Gateway. So this Power BI Gateway it's a free install, stands between your on-premise data sources and your Power BI.com cloud data. And what it's going to do is it's going to push that data from your on-prem sources up into PowerBI.com, and it's a secure sign-in. Holds your passwords, so you'll log into PowerBI.com, make a connection to that data source, provide the credentials, and then from there, the Power BI Gateway will automatically take care of your refreshing, so you don't need to go in every single time and refresh a report and wait for it to refresh. You can go in and tell Power BI that you want the dashboard refreshed every morning at 1 a.m. up to, I believe, 8 times a day. So you can have that refresh all throughout the day, depending on the type of connection you make. So every time you log into Power BI, your data is ready to go, it's up to date, and it's ready to be analyzed. Pricing. So I will mention that there is a free version out there. It's okay if you want to just do some basic Power BI testing. However, it's very limited. So if you want to actually do any sort of Power BI development, I would go away from the free and go to the Pro. And you can see the Power BI Pro. It's $9.99 per user per month. So it's very affordable, especially when compared to other BI tools that it gets compared to. And it comes with functionalities. It comes with the automatic refresh. It comes with 10 gigs of storage. It gives you the ability to govern and provide different levels of access to the dashboards. And I know Mitch is going to go into workspaces in a little bit, and he'll teach you a little bit about how we can give certain people different levels of access, whether you want them to be an admin and a creator, you want them changing visuals and full access to create or delete within Power BI, or you just want them to be a read-only and you want them to just strictly be able to consume the data, a very basic view of the dashboards. We also have Power BI Premium, and this is if you are upwards of 500 to 1,000 users. You will start to see a little bit of a price benefit when you go premium. You'll also receive some other benefits such as the report server, which is a more robust version of Power BI Desktop. It's going to give you abilities to share through that Power BI report server. So not only will you have PowerBI.com, but you'll have the report server. You'll also get some different abilities when you're going to talk about scaling and allocating different resources. And there's a lot of information on that. So I won't go too much into Power BI Premium. However, you can reach out to me after the demo and I can give you a lot more information or walk you through what Power BI Premium is. So as much as everybody loves PowerPoints, I'm actually going to jump out of PowerPoint and we're going to go into a live demo of a dashboard I've created. And I'm just going to show you some different functionalities as well as a business case we've solved in the past. So you should all be seeing a Power BI sales with a little Socius logo. And what this is it's actually a combination of data sources that I've created, as well as some stored procedures in SQL. So you can really almost think of it as 3 data sources, one being a stored procedure to create a date table, an automatic dynamic date table that's going to update with the time, as well as give me some time-based functionality for me to develop different functions as I need them. We're also going to have a Microsoft ERP, Great Plains, as my accounting system. However, you can connect to any sort of ERP that you might. This one just happens to be GP. And it's also going to pull in some customers from CRM. So you can see it's combining data sources, and through the data model, it's to the end user, it's all one data model. You know, they don't need to know anything about CRM or GP. To them, it's just a sales dashboard that's ready for them to use. So I first want to go into a little bit of the functionality of Power BI. So you can see we have sales dashboard, a few bar charts, a scatter plot, things like that. But really what I want to go into is how, I mentioned everything in Power BI is interactive. So first we have the ability to make slicers, and you'll see a slicer up here, you'll see a slicer and a search box. And what these do is they're on-page filters. So you can see I have my years 2017 data, and I can just drag that date back. And just like that, it's going to redraw everything else on the page. I can also create new slicers just by dragging them out. So if I don't want date, you can drag out customer, things like that. We also have search boxes. And in this, you can just type in, so I'll search for an item, and it's going to say, we'll search for a phone system. Seems like it doesn't want to respond. My computer might be a little slow with the webinar going on. But let's change that. Let's change that to a slicer, and we'll see. You'll see how I did that. We have my visuals right up here. The search box is this visual, and I just went over here, highlighted the visual, selected slicer right here, and now I have a whole new visual. And I'm actually going to make that a drop down, and we'll say I just want to see this first item. So you can see I select the slicer, select that drop down, formatted it to the way I wanted, and I selected the first item, and you can see everything on the page redraws. So now I can see that this item is primarily sold or only sold by Greg, and we've only sold it to Astor Sweets. So just like that, I'm getting a little more insights out of my data. It's very, very easy. You can see how easily I change the visuals around and how easily it is to just redraw and manipulate that canvas to answer the questions that you need. So not only do we have slicers as that a way to interact with the data, but we can also cross-filter. And what I mean by cross-filter is these tables, these scatter plots, the bar charts, all the graphs can actually be interacted with. So as I'm looking at this dollar amount sold by salesperson, if I want to know a little bit more about Nancy, I can actually just select her bar, and you'll see that everything else on the page redrew to Nancy. So I can see Nancy's KPI. She's doing 11% better than she did her goal. So she's doing great this year. We can see her top customers as well as how much she's selling to them, as well as her amount sold by quantity. So I can re-click Nancy, and you'll see the data redraws to its original format. We can see how easy it is to manipulate and work with the dashboard. So it's very end user friendly, very easy to manipulate and redraw data. You don't need to be a technical data analyst just to do some basic functionality of Power BI. And as I mentioned earlier, we also have drill down. So we'll see that this dollar amount sold by salesperson is a pretty basic chart. And like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you don't want to know just how much is a salesperson selling in general. You need to know some specifics. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to add layers to this visual. So I want to know what my salespeople are selling. So you see over here on my axis, I have my list of fields, and there's a little bit of space underneath on the axis field. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to drop in layers of data and set up drill down capabilities within Power BI. So I'm going to go to my tables. I have my table sales query, my field item description, and I'm going to drag that over right under salesperson. And what you might have noticed is in that salesperson visual, these arrows now appear. Now when I click this top right arrow and it highlights black, what that's doing is it's now turning off cross-filtering. So this time when I click on Nancy, it's not going to redraw every single other visual on that page, but rather it's going to drill into Nancy to show me that salesperson's now, what is that, the items that salesperson is selling. So when I drill into Nancy, you'll see now we have a list of items, and it's currently sorted, it looks like alphabetical, but to me that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to hit these three dots, and I'm going to say I want to see percent sort by percent of grand total. And you can see it redraws there, but actually let's try dollars sold last year. And now you can see I can not only drill down, but I can also sort that data so that it's most intuitive to me. So now I can go in and see last year Nancy B, her biggest selling was central cabinet at 55,000. I can add more layers to that data. So you could have a dollar, this dollar sold by salesperson. I can look at it and I can say, well, Nancy sold $75,000 or $580,000 this year. But I can set up those drill downs to go, well, I want to know what she's selling, and I want to know when she's selling, and I even want to know the invoice number that she's selling that on. So I can go from that very high level, C-level view of the company, how are we doing here, how are we doing here, how's that department going, down to almost an account level view where I'm actually getting invoice numbers and purchase order numbers so that I can get that really granular level all through one visual. And you can see how easily I'm setting that up. I'm just dragging and dropping into the axis and then drilling down. So once that data, that's when I talk about sort of an end user friendly experience, once that data model is set up and that heavy lifting is done, to the end user, it's drag and drop to get the answers that they need from their data. So some other things I want to mention about this Power BI dashboard that you're seeing is not only can we slice, cross-filter, and drill down, and we have our basic visuals over here, we also see these 3 dots, and we can actually import custom visuals. So Microsoft has a full community of people making visuals all the time. You can download those through the Microsoft Office store, and they have a wide array of visuals. You know, anything you can dream up, Microsoft's probably already created it. And I know that Mitch is going to show you a few of the fun ones that we worked with here at Socius. Another thing is I also want to show is the ability to create data that might not have been in the system in Power BI. So you'll see the sales KPI, and it says that they sold 583,000, 62% over the goal. Well, that goal actually came from something we set in Power BI. We created that data, we set it, you know, a predetermined goal through, and we added that in through Power BI. You could set that off a budget that's in your system, but the point is that we can actually create data. We can create seasonal slicers and things like that. So in the past we've created slicers that say not just summer, fall, winter, spring, but for say baseball teams where it's off season, on season, or preseason, off season, regular season, postseason. So that wasn't in their system, and we were able to do that through the Power BI, through the DAX data analysis expressions capabilities that gives us the power to create new data and put that in the data model. And I won't go too much into detail about DAX because we could be here all day, but I just want you to know that Power BI has the ability to create new fields off of existing data. And the last thing I'll mention about Power BI before I turn it over to Mitch to show you a little bit more about PowerBI.com is the ability to create some row-level security. So I mentioned before that Power BI has some different security enablements, and one of those is row-level security. And this is something we're seeing is more and more commonly implemented in our projects, is the ability to use DAX, again, data analysis expressions, to define different groups of people. So for example, this sales dashboard, if I come back up to my list of salespeople, we can see, you know, we have Sandra, Nancy, Greg. Well, when they access this dashboard, I might not want Sandra to see Nancy's sales data. That's Nancy's private sales, her customers, her sales data. So I can actually use that coding in their Active Directory logins in PowerBI.com to say when Sandra logs in, she should only see sales orders and customers that have Sandra as flagged as her salesperson. So when she logs in, she'll never see Nancy, Greg, or any customers or sales pertaining to them. To her, it's just going to be her personal dashboard. However, when Nancy, Greg, Aaron, etc. all log in, they'll all have that same experience, all having a personalized dashboard with no work on their end. Just by simply logging in, Power BI is smart enough to go and pull just the records that I've determined are appropriate for that person. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mitch. Lindsay, if you'd like to switch the presentation to Mitch, and he's going to go through a little bit more about the PowerBI.com side of things and show you what's new.
All right. Hi, guys. Hopefully you'll be able to see a quick Power BI desktop screen here. And I'm just going to go over some of the new features. And I know how Neil was talking earlier that Power BI is constantly updating. So if you do see a little at the bottom here that would say update to new version of Power BI, you know, you can go ahead and do that. There's also Power BI desktop through the Microsoft Store. It's the Power BI desktop app. There's a few versions if you want the desktop app. And this one, if you download it as the app, will constantly update. It will, every time there's an update, it will just do it automatically. You don't have to go through and do it. So some of the features I'll be talking about aren't originally shown. So you go over here to options, and then down to preview features, and something like bookmarks you have to show or not. So make sure the ones you want shown are shown. All right. And then under view, we can go here and see the new panes. So we have something called lock object, which is a new feature. So previously when you're building stuff and sometimes, you have this image just the way you like it, but you bump it, or you're doing something over here and you're like, oh, it's not aligned anymore. Now you can go ahead and lock all the images on a report. You can also do a selection pane, which is something, if any users are used to something like Photoshop, it just shows it. It doesn't delete it. It's still there. It still could be used as a cross filter or anything like that. But let's say you just didn't want to see it at the time. That's just a quick hide or show. The field properties is pretty important when you're getting into, as Neil talked about earlier, a lot of the DAX formulas can get pretty complicated. And especially later, I'll show you that you can share workspaces and reports with people, and they can do some ad hoc reporting. But let's say you had a measure like dollars sold. I can go ahead and add a description of what that measure is. This is just the sum of all sales from the table sales. So that's pretty good for clearing up stuff, especially when you're sharing reports and workspaces with people. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the bookmarks plane, which is pretty interesting, and there's a lot you can do here. So you can set up bookmarks that are kind of snapshots of how the report looks at a certain time. So let's say I wanted to see the salesperson view by date of 2017. I would just have it set like this. And then let's say I want 16. I can go to the next one, and this would be good if you're showing your dashboard as a presentation, or if you're sharing with someone you want to highlight a certain set of filters that you want to show, and you wouldn't have to describe, hey, check out 2016 salesperson dashboard. You would just already have these bookmarks set up, and these bookmarks are viewable through anyone that has the dashboard shared with them. They go through different tabs at the bottom. You can see different pages, and you can do things like spotlight. If you want to spotlight a certain visual at this part of your presentation, you could do that with bookmarks. As you can see up here, there's some other ones that I'm going to get into later when we get into the Power BI service. So something with the Power BI service we're going to talk about is the shared workspaces. And this, you would just go ahead and publish like you would in the any other way. You save it. And then you can see the different workspaces to choose from. So I know this December demo is one that I've already made that is a shared workspace. So under December demo, I'll go ahead and just the settings, so edit, and I can see that I have my demo account, that's an admin, and then I have my personal account. And then let's say I just wanted to also add Neil to this. Go ahead and add, save. Now he's a member, and whoops, I shouldn't have clicked all the way out. And this window, you can also change the different levels of security of someone. So I don't want Neil to be able to do any admin stuff, so I'll just leave him as a member. You can also change, they can only view the content, or they can also view and edit. So the nice thing that's with this is I'll bring over my personal account. Let's say I didn't have access to that data gateway or something like that I built it with. With the shared workspace, even though I'm on my other account, I can still get those reports. As my computer's going a little bit slower. And then, there it goes. So, but let's say I want to do some ad hoc kind of reporting. I can go over data sets. And even though I don't have access to that data gateway through the Power BI service, I now do. So I can go ahead, and this is all through the service. Go ahead and put, I want dollars sold, and let's say I want it by a salesperson. But I'm not really sure what dollars sold is. Luckily, ahead of time, we went and put the description, and that shows kind of what these measures do with the description there. The other thing that was done with the bookmarks earlier, and then if I want to save that, I can save it and add it to my reports. Sales. So now that's added to the reports that everyone within the shared workspace can see. The other thing I was talking about earlier with the bookmarks, So let's say not only I want to have a bookmark of the story, but I can set bookmarks set to individual images. So if me, as my personal account, if I use a tablet or a phone more often or something that I don't really like doing much detailed clicking, I can set these icons. So this will be the summary page. And it'll take me right to the summary. And then this image is bookmarked back, and this one takes me to a different page. So there's a bunch of different interesting stuff you can do with the bookmarks, set up however you want or however people are going to use them best. And then with the shared dashboards, even though I wasn't the one to create this, I can still do what Neil was talking about earlier with these the natural language query. So if I wanted to say, I got this this dashboard from Neil, and I want to know who the top 5 sales by person. I can see it right there. It makes the graph for me instantly. But let's say I don't like bar charts. I like pie charts. It's that simple as far as just typing it out in English and it builds it for you. And then it gives you kind of suggestions of what other ways you might want to see that kind of image. Yep. And Neil, that's about all I had for new features. So I want to pop over to you for closing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mitch. So I want to go through just a few more PowerPoint slides. I know everyone loves them. So I'm going to go through our solution showcase and just show you a few examples of different things we've done in the past, different dashboards we've created, and just give you an idea and get the wheels turning of what Power BI can do for you. So the first one is we actually created a political survey map that's going to show different tendencies of voters across the country. So this was actually pulled from a website. So what we did is there was no on-prem data source or anything like that. We actually scraped a website that had a few data tables on it. We connected directly to that URL. That's something Power BI can do. If you find a table on Wikipedia or anything like that, you can actually connect directly to that table through Power BI, no having to download it to Excel or anything like that. And that is refreshable. But what we did is we connected directly to that website, connected to the website, dropped the URL in, scraped the website, pulled out the data table, and we were able to create this live map that was actually going to update and show voter trends across the country for the last election. We're also able to create, so not only that, we were able to create some project timeline schedules. So same data, just a few different ways to see it, kind of give you some ideas. Not only we have a few custom visuals on this page, but we're able to see, if we have 10 projects, how are they going? How are they developing? So you can see that they're 33% done. They're, this many days till due, as well as some basic delivery information. So something that might be applicable to a project manager, maybe even on a construction site, anything like that. No matter what kind of project you are, that's the kind of visuals we'd like to show on a mobile, and you can set alerts on. So for example, you could set it, I want to know anytime a project is over 100 days duration, show me that. That's a direct alert to your phone. Or maybe send me an alert anytime a project is within 1 month of delivery. So that project goes off, maybe you're managing 10 to 20 projects, and then it goes off and you can do one final check, make sure everything is going the way it is, and maybe you need to change the way resources are being applied to different projects to make sure that project gets done at the right time. And this is another one of the sales dashboards. I showed you an example of the sales dashboard, and Mitch was also working a little bit with the sales dashboard, but this is one we've actually developed, and this is a GP dashboard. So you can see it's going to show you amount this year versus last, and we actually use quite a few DAX calculations, so calculations done within Power BI, so that anytime you're looking at a year, we can show you the last year so that you have a little bit of relative information so that you're not just seeing 2016. Well, 2016 might be good, might be great, but compared to last year, it's great. We can also set up, you see that's enabled with drill down, and you'll see this black box that's actually popped up in the screenshot. And what that is my mouse was hovering over this column, and we can actually fill that black box with more information. So not only you're not only restricted to what you can visualize in the data, just basic or drill down, we can actually add some what they're called tooltips, so that when you hover over, I can actually see, well, there was 9 orders and 34 sold going into that 0.36 million. And we can add, different things. We can add customer names. We can add all sorts of data, so that when you hover over, you're getting more and more out of these visuals. We'll also see the KPIs. I showed you a KPI earlier. Again, we can set those dynamically, something out of the system. These KPIs are set to show this year versus last year. So sales versus the expectation that you just want to do maybe 10% better than you did last year. You just want to grow the company. And you can see that in these KPIs, they're doing 38% better, or in some cases, just 1 or 2% under the mark. So that is our presentation, a little bit about data, the dashboards, and Power BI. We finished a little bit early, so we have some time for Q&A. I know Lindsay mentioned that you can send some messages into the chat box.
Yep, questions, you can put them either in the chat box or the question box, and we can get those answered for you. Mitch and Neil, I sent one over to you guys if the one that you would like to answer.
Okay, perfect. And before we jump into this, I just want to comment, we'll get into a few questions. If you have more specific questions or would like to know more about Power BI, Mitch and I's emails are right there on the screen. You can write those down. I'm not sure if we send out the PowerPoint, Lindsay.
We can.
Okay.
Yep.
That's our contact information, so please reach out if you have any more questions. Let's see. We see our first question is, how do you recommend grouping data/areas? For instance, do you have separate boards for sales purchasing? That's a great question, and we've actually tackled this in a few different ways over the past. So, for example, we have our own GP content packs that we've developed. We actually developed a full sales array, then a separate finance, a separate operations, and a separate purchasing. So we actually went ahead and we separated those. And there is some overlap. You might see the same visual in sales that you see in finance. But in a lot of instances, we do combine them. When you look at Power BI, it's similar to Excel, and where you have tabs at the bottom. So it really depends on how your end users are going to interact with that data. You don't want to cluster the data, and you also don't want to make a file too large to where it can't refresh properly. So it really comes down to a variety of factors, but it really comes down to what your end users want to see. And maybe it makes sense to have a combined dashboard that has sales and purchasing in one. Maybe it makes sense, how you're going to share out that dashboard, how you're going to apply security roles to it, that you have it separately. And another option we've done is we've actually created, we'll have sales and purchasing reports, and Mitch showed you reports in PowerBI.com, and from reports we can create dashboards in PowerBI.com. And dashboards can have visuals from different reports, so you can combine sales. If you have a sales report and then a separate purchasing, you can combine visuals from the sales and the purchasing into a single level or a single dashboard in PowerBI.com. And maybe that's, in the past we've done sort of the CEO dashboard, and it combines just 2 or 3 sales and 2 or 3 purchasing, so that CEO can get his view, his customized view, and you can do that for different people. So you have different options, but it really comes down to how it's best for you and your end users to interact with that data.
Perfect. Well, that was the only question. If you have any more questions, definitely reach out to Neil or Mitch, and we will get those answered. But we will give everybody time back in your day, and thanks so much for joining us.